Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Mount Moriah Baptist Church. We are a social justice congregation, and as we celebrate African American History Month, we want to honor our ancestors, bless the Lord, and honor our community on this night with a community forum, with community leaders, political leaders, and religious leaders. That is necessary because in the African American church, we do understand that the church has always been a cornerstone in making a difference in the lives of our people and the people of faith. So tonight, again, welcome to Mount Moriah. May we pray. Gracious God, we thank you for the blessings of this day and the blessings of this life. We pray, oh God, that as we celebrate African American History Month, that as we celebrate 365, 24/7, we will remember the sacrifices of our people and we will celebrate our heritage. On this night, oh God, as political leaders, civic leaders, and religious leaders come together, may our community be informed, strengthened, and united. Dear God, in the words of the psalmist, how good and how pleasant it is when brothers and sisters can dwell together in unity. In our community, oh God, we pray for peace, we pray for love, and we pray for unity that can only come from thee. Bless us on this evening. It's in the name of Jesus the Christ we pray. Amen. Amen. We are blessed to have one who has been a lifelong resident of this community in the person of Reverend Dr. Henry Ficklin, who serves as a senior pastor in the community and also serves the mayor's office. So there's a link between the church and the politics of the city. And he will serve as the moderator on this evening. Reverend Dr. Ficklin.
Thank you, Dr. Kimmel. And certainly I am honored to be here in the place as moderator, but more than that, I am also representing Mayor Lester Miller. And he regrets that he could not be here today because his schedule would not allow when he received the notice, but he did send back to the church a letter explaining that his schedule was already predetermined before he received the invitation to come here and be with you tonight. And generally when the mayor cannot make it to whatever event it is, whether it's a ribbon cutting or a dedication or what have you, he always sends the next best thing in his office. And that is yours truly. And I'm happy to be here. And if he were here tonight, he would say this is a great day to be in Macon-Bill County to celebrate Black history on the final day of February. And this is February the 28th. And we're so honored to have all of these wonderful community leaders with us tonight. I had mentioned to the sheriff that I didn't think they were coming because of the situation that's going on now in the city of Macon, but he said that he had it covered. I don't know whether the coroner will get here because he's probably at that same situation tonight. But we're glad that each of you are here, and we want you to feel relaxed. I'm going to be asking the questions that have been given to me, and it's enough to keep us here until 12 o'clock tonight. So, yes, that's right. This is your church, Brenda. I saw you looking up, but y'all made the questions up. So I'm going to be asking these questions, and of course, we're just honored that we have such fine people from our community who have shown and proven their dedication to the advancement of our community. And this is a Black history program, but as the pastor's already said, that we are looking at the status quo of our community. It's like more or less like a community forum to understand what is the status of things in our community, specifically the Black community. And I'm gonna start with, on the other end with Mr. Herbert Denard, who is a long-time community activist and has served on the Water Authority for many years and made wonderful changes to the Water Authority while he was there, and he has been honored for all the things that he has done in this community. And I think on yesterday, not yesterday, but day before yesterday, one of the local churches honored him, Ebenezer Baptist Church, for his many years of commitment to improving our community. And I'm going to let him introduce himself or say a word of opening. And then after that, we have with us also our first elected woman and black district attorney in the person of Anita Howard. And of course, if you just keep up with what's going on, you'll know that she is on the case. She is enforcing the law, and many people are being brought to justice, and that's what she was elected to do, because she has a dedication in her spirit and in her heart to make sure that our community is safe and that criminals are put where they need to be so that the rest of us can be safe from the kinds of things that they perpetrate on our community. And then, of course, we have next Brenda Humas, who is just a fantastic person, been a lawyer in this community for many years, served on city council, and now she is a magistrate judge. And we're so happy to have her here with us to answer questions. I know that you know more about it than I do, because she's a member of this church over here. And then, of course, we have Mr. Jones, who at one time was on the east side as the principal of the Northeast High School, where he was just a fantastic person. So they decided they were going to give him a promotion, which I think is a demotion, to go down to the Board of Education and operate from there, and separated him from the children over here in East Macon that need that leadership that he provided for so many years. But and a lot of folk don't know, he and I are classmates. Yes, we are. Even though he was much younger in the class than I was much older in the class than he was. Either way, we are classmates. And then, of course, we have our wonderful sheriff in the person of Sheriff Davis, who is a community-minded person. He is one who goes beyond what is expected of a sheriff to serve our community. And I think that anyone who has had any kind of personal contact with him know that he is a genuine person who genuinely want to do what is right, not only in our community, but in all of Macon County. And then finally, we have on our panel in the person of a pastor here on the east side too, Dominique Johnson, who has been heavily involved in our community. Now he's leading a group that is responsible for monitoring and making sure that crime is kept under wraps. He leads young men who are walking the street, making sure that they give information out and receive information from those who are out there in the street. He has done a great job with that, and we're glad to have him here with us as well. And now we're going to just say something. I hope I didn't say everything y'all wanted to say, but go ahead.
Can you hear me? 70 persons died last year, violently. 88% of them were black. The sheriff's department or the police department did not kill none of them. Zero. White people did not kill not one of them. Unfortunately, all of the persons, 80-some odd percent, that was killed by black people. Most of the time, it was anger. Some of the time, it was gang-related. Other parts of the time, it was a husband or a wife or a boyfriend and girlfriend. That's a problem we need to deal with. But more than that, the same last year, a number of us died and it was not from, it was because we are eating the wrong foods. The stuff that we grew up on eating is killing us. Not one, you know, you look at all the dialysis centers, you visit them. Most of the people in the centers are us. Chitlins, pig feet, greasy food, salty food is not good for us.
Thank you, Mr. Denard. Okay, now
obedient.
we'll have our district attorney.
Do you just introduce myself and say her?
Yes, introduce yourself. Just make a general statement.
All right, so I'm Anita Howard. I'm honored to serve as the district attorney for the Macon Judicial Circuit, which is Bibb, Crawford, and Peach counties. And we know that violence is a very complex issue, and it must be attacked in a multi-faceted way. And we are definitely prosecuting, but as you all know, we cannot prosecute or police our way to a safer community alone. We must have prevention, and so we are. Oh, can y'all hear me? Yeah. Oh, they can. I talk. Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I talk pretty loud. I don't want to get too loud. And so we are also focusing on prevention, and because if we don't focus on prevention, we'll just simply have the next generation coming along, and then we'll be prosecuting those, and we will never break that cycle. So you will see my office focus on prosecution as well as prevention, because the goal is public safety, and that is the way that you achieve that.
Hi, I'm Brenda Humes. I'm the associate judge with the Macon Bibb Civil and Magistrate Court, meaning that I serve in dual capacity with civil cases as well as criminal. As has already been said, we do have an issue with crime, which I do see in the Magistrate Court, which means I'm the first person that those who get arrested, the first person they see for is judge, and making a decision whether or not they were, either one, whether or not sign a warrant for them to be arrested, and two, just make a determination whether or not they receive a bond. But also I'm on the other side, so a civil side. We have an issue with crime, sure enough, but we also have an issue with housing. In our community, a lot of times I have a lot of people come before me on dispossessory, where I have to make unpleasant decisions about whether or not someone is displaced out of their homes. And now housing has gone up tremendously. So there are things that the community can need to address in both capacity, for on a civil level with our housing as well as on our criminal side too.
Good evening. I'm Steve Jones, Executive Officer of School Improvement here in Bibb County. Executive Officer, that's just another name for Principal, Supervisor, and Coach. Representing Dr. Sims, who could not make it tonight, our superintendent. But you know, as I think about just an opening statement, I think about Principal Kafegla. He says, deficit speech is a result of deficit thinking. There's a lot of deficit thinking going on right now with our kids, with our community. A lot of things that we are, the mindset, there has to be a shift in the mindset of not only our students, but our parents as well. And so, you know, the cry is, how do we really join in as a community? How do we join in as a community to start working on the mindset of parents and students, knowing that it can be done? Change can occur. We don't have to stay the way we are. Change can occur. And it's all about beginning here with our hearts, beginning with our minds. And so getting people to understand that we can't have a deficit mindset, that our kids can't do better, that our kids won't grow up to do what they need. We have a lot. He started off with the violence is here. We talked about the gang violence is here. We know that the great equalizer is education. The great equalizer is education. The way that we close the gap is education. And so, you know, as we begin to talk later on tonight, we'll hear about the different opportunities that our kids have. But I think the biggest thing right now that we have to have in our community is that you have to know what we're offering. You have to know that there are many things available for every single student in Bibb County. It does not have to look like that, but it first starts with awareness and knowledge, and hopefully we'll be able to give you some of that tonight.
Thank you, Dr. Jones. Hello, I'm Sheriff David Davis. It's good to be here tonight with everybody. Thank Mount Moriah for having this event, and thank you all for inviting us to be here. It's good to be back. I was here back in January at the annual January New Year's event downstairs in the fellowship hall. So it's good to be here. I want to have some good conversation tonight concerning all facets of crime, concerning all facets of what concerns you all in our community. And that's what we have. You have some heavy hitters up here. Between us and all of you all, I think we can come up with some constructive ideas and some constructive programs maybe to help turn around some of the things that we're seeing. But to sort of dovetail on what Dr. Jones was talking about, bad thinking and that sort of thing, think about attitude determines outcome. So we have an attitude of hopelessness, helplessness, uneducated, without jobs, an attitude of a short fuse, an attitude of not being able to think before you act. We're seeing that so much played out in our community in so many different aspects, both in some of the violence, both in some of the domestic situations that we concern ourselves with. So I'm looking forward to a good conversation, and hopefully we can bring some of these things out and look at them and come up with some solutions or some ideas as to how to address some of the problems and some of the challenges that we have in this community. One thing about a challenge is there to be overcome. So if we can work together, we can overcome any challenge. So I look forward to a good conversation tonight.
Good evening, I'm Dominique Johnson. Thank you for the opportunity. As stated before, I'm the pastor of Kingdom Life, which is on Sherland Drive. I'm also the president and CEO of the Urban CEO, and the CEO stands for Community Empowerment Organization. It's come to kind of double as my brand now. I have a for-profit program which I do coaching and leadership development out of called Seeds Global. The other thing that I do that Reverend Ficklin mentioned was I'm the program director for Cure Violence Making, and we were placed in the Pleasant Hill community. That's about it. I'm ready for the conversation. I will say this too, it's a joint venture between my nonprofit and our church, which we're bringing a federal credit union to the east side. It's called the East Macon Federal Credit Union. We've already secured a location and we'll do other things. So one of my mottos is community empowerment. I believe that we have the answers inside of us, so I'm big on helping develop us to take control of our own communities. And so I tell people this, to change our communities, you're gonna need money and the Holy Ghost. So, all right.
And finally, we have been joined by someone that we all know. She has represented this community for many years. And the reason that she was a little tardy today is because she was out fighting for people. She appointed herself to go down and represent people who have to catch the bus. And they are considering raising the rate, but she didn't think this was fair. So she went down to meet with the transit authority. That's the kind of fighter she has always been. That's why the community loves her, regardless of who runs against her. They can't defeat her. And that is the person of Elaine Lucas. I won't say any more because I know that you know who she is, Commissioner Elaine.
Thank you. Good evening. I'm going to tell you, I had to cool off. I'm glad I parked in the back there and walked on around so I could get a little air, because I was hot when I left that Macon Transit Authority meeting. Yeah, and I do apologize for being late, but I had to stand there because they were doing some real stupid stuff. Macon Bibb has a 25% poverty rate. We have a 20% of our folks don't have transportation, don't have a car. Like, we rode here tonight and, you know, parked and everything, turned the lights go out by themselves, don't they? Parked and came on in. 20% of the folks in Macon Bibb don't have that luxury. They have to ride the bus when it comes. These folks were sitting down there talking about increasing the fares on these folks, and they talked about it like these folks, like the way it was, they didn't care. They really didn't care. I saw some folks that I know on the transit authority. So I said, well, while they're sitting up here, let me school them too, because it's obvious they don't know what they're doing. And they didn't. The whole process is just totally jacked up. But in the summer or sometimes thereafter, they're planning to increase the fares on folks who already pay a sizable amount of their income to ride the bus now. If you ride the bus, you're not just paying it one time, you're paying it twice a day. And if you work 5 days or 6 days, you're paying that 2 times a day each one of those days. And if you're paratransit, if you need that paratransit bus to go to dialysis 3 times a week, they're gonna add a whole $1 to the fee per trip. So you're increasing, just think about the percentage. So I walked up in the meeting, they let me talk. Y'all gonna have to let me get this out. I'm sorry, I'm gonna take more of the time, but y'all understand. I walked up in the meeting and they came in and took a seat, and I waved to them, because some I've worked with in the school system, some were this and that. One I served with on pedestrian safety review board and all this sort of stuff. So, hey, how y'all doing? And when I got up to talk, I reminded them that I voted to confirm them, their appointment to the Macon Transit Authority. I said it real cute, y'all. It was just such an honor for me to have been allowed to vote for you as you took your seat on the Transit Authority. And they were grinning, you know. They didn't know what was coming afterwards. But anyway, I sat, I did my talk, I told them about percentages and all of that, and asked them if you would please consider reversing. Would you please reconsider your vote? What got me hot, y'all, was they didn't even know that they had voted to increase the rates. They said they thought they had voted to move forward with an investigation of whether to increase the rate. And at that time, I just got out of order. And I said, do y'all know what you're doing? I need to have a copy of your minutes from when you took that vote. And the newspaper reporter is sitting right over there. She reported that you voted to, so which is it? Did you or did you not? And they're all looking funny. Black folks turned red, Sheriff. They turned red because they were so embarrassed. There's some black ones on there. And so I told them, I said, I want the minutes. I want to know when these hearings, public hearings, are going to take place. You made a decision, but then you're going to do public hearings after you've made your decision. Does that sound right to you? It didn't sound right to me. So anyway, I kind of told them that, and they didn't like that either, Sheriff. They didn't like that either.
Thank you, Commissioner Lucas.
But
we're
anyway,
getting it out.
the bottom line is, Y'all better get up and do something. Y'all better pay attention to what's going on in this community, because there's a lot of stuff going on. And everybody's not as fortunate as we are to have a car or to have other stuff that we need, necessities of life. We better start taking care of our folks, and that's all. I'm sorry
That's
to
all
take
right.
that, but I'm cooler now.
We know you, and we understand your passion for helping people. And when you talk about people who ride the bus, we know that many people who ride the bus are still making minimum wages in Georgia, which is $7.25 or 15, and to go up on them is really an injustice to the poorest people in the Butte County. So we understand and we appreciate, I know I do, appreciate your passion for going down there and speaking up when nobody else would have said a word. Thank you so much, Ms. Lucas. Let's give all of our panelists a hand. We're going to go ahead and get started with some questions. They have 4 categories that they've given to me. And of course, the first category is for the coroner. He is not here. And of course, I know that many of these kinds of questions can be answered by some of the people on the panel, and I don't think I'm going to call on any person to answer the questions that are given unless they specifically fall into a category that the proprietors of this forum have given me to be guided by. And of course, the coroner's first question is, what are the rates of homicide and suicides in the black community according to age groups? And I know that Mr. Denard has already answered that question out the bank. He asked that question. Is there anybody who has a follow-up question that they want to ask this panel on that particular subject matter? Because that was the first thing that he talked about. Okay, we're going to move on. And the second question for the coroner was, what is the #1 cause of death in the black community? I think Mr. Denard hit on that too. He's been going over to the jail trying to convince young people to change the way they think about things, because he has been disturbed by some of the things that are going on in our community, as many of you are. And of course, that question also is a question that I think that he has already hit upon. And then it said, this question right here said, what are your responsibilities as the coroner? We're going to save that question until the coroner finally gets here, because we don't want to answer for him. We know what the law says that a coroner is supposed to do, but we have a very active coroner in our community, and I know that he would love to give you his opinion of what his responsibilities are. We're going to move on now to the next section that talks about spirituality. And I'm going to go from spirituality to the share to education and some of the other kinds of things that are on here. And I know that the panel is a very strong panel. And if you wanted me to just stop going by these questions, audience, and you have questions that you want to ask, just raise your hand and I will let you ask your question so that you can direct it to whatever department of government you want to direct it to, and I think that would facilitate a smoother transition of getting involved in a dialogue that is going to be beneficial not only to you, but to the panelists as well. So the first question on spirituality is, how do faith and prayer play an important role in the black community? And I think that's aimed at none other than Dominique Johnson.
How does faith and prayer, one more time, I'm sorry. Can you read one more time?
Play an important role in the black community.
I think when you look at the historicity of the black church, or particularly the church in general, but I'm going to say the black church, the church has always been an anchor of hope. And earlier on, it was the place where we had quote unquote social services. So faith has been very important, even before we even got here on these shores by chattel slavery. Faith has always been a part of the African and African American community. Prayer is very essential and important too, because prayer fortifies us. It gives us courage. We get a direct link to God from my perspective. I think with a lot of younger people, take out of context, and I'm gonna make this quick so we can keep moving, is that they think that when we say prayer, they think that's all we do, and that's not. For me, believing in a living God and in a living hope, I go to God in prayer, number one, for strength. I go to him for peace, but I also go to him for strategy. When I come out of my prayer closet, I now have the instructions of how I engage my community or people. So I think that's the main thing. So I think a lot of times when people say, well, we just gonna pray about it, that's it. But it must not just stop on our knees. It must be us get us off our knees and then going and doing something on our feet with our hands and our head. So in short, that's how I leave it like that. I don't want to keep rambling, but faith is very important because I think it anchors us. It gives us a hope. Most movements die out because there's nothing transcendent about them. You got to have something that's bigger than you to keep you moving. And that belief in God, my belief in Jesus Christ, keeps me moving, it keeps me sane, it keeps us on a never end, even though we get weary and tired. And so when we get weary and tired, that's when we turn to faith. That's when we turn to prayer for strength, peace, confirmation, and instructions, and wisdom.
And I think that what Pastor Kimball said at the start of our program is how important faith and prayer is. I think he used the word church, is to the black community, especially when we look at black history. And I'm going to open up to anybody else want to respond to that question, because I know that not only is this a question for the clergy, but this question, and I believe that everyone up here has to deal with prayer and faith in the operation of whatever their different responsibilities are, whether it be the courts, prosecutorial responsibilities, activism in the community, or education, or policing, or even on the commission. So if you would like to chime in and have a word to say about how prayer and faith affects what you do, you're certainly given that opportunity at this time.
Can I add something real quick?
Go ahead.
I will want to add this. We must go, because I thought about this. You have faith denial, then you have believing, right? So I just want to add this. So we must go from saving faith to living faith, right? So there's a faith that saves me, but there's also a faith that turns into me living what I believe. So I just want to add that part, because there's a noun of faith, like faith, but then there's faith that I'm believing. So my life should be a reflection. And when Pastor said that of a social justice, when he said, I come to set the captives free, I come to liberate, set at liberty those that are bruised. So I just wanted to add that quick part. We must go from a saving faith to a living faith.
Thank you so much, Pastor Johnson. The second phase of question, I'm going to go to the sheriff. It has, what are some examples of good community policing, and then what kinds of crimes happen most often in Macon-Bill County?
Well, can everybody hear me? Is this mic working? Okay, good. We get the, as far as numerics go, when you're talking about the types of crimes that you get, and we certainly, homicides and murders, that is certainly the most important ones because somebody loses their life. But when you look at total number of crimes, when we have, 6,000 or 7,000 total crimes, and that counts everything from somebody getting their lawnmower stolen all the way to a person losing their life, it's usually property crimes are probably our most highest crimes numerically. And that's the things we deal with the most. Thefts, forgeries, scams. How many of y'all have been called telling you that that they from the sheriff's office and you owe somebody some money or you need to show up for jury duty or something like that? Those types numerically, and that's the most crimes that we deal with. But most certainly the most important ones and the things that we devote a lot of our resources to both investigating and hopefully preventing them are the crimes of violence, or the crimes that involve people that can't get along, or people who find themselves in some type of conflict. But when we just look at straight numerics, it is property type crimes and that sort of thing. Now, when we look at community policing, this is just me talking, and I'd like to say that we do that as well as we can and better than most, but we always can do better. Any ideas from the audience or any ideas from the folks here that can help us do better, we can. I have Judy Gordon, who's our Neighborhood Watch Coordinator. Many of you may already know her from Neighborhood Watch groups. I have Captain Ellis Sinclair back in the back, and Captain Raymond Reynolds also. And they are, Captain Reynolds is part of our patrol division. Captain Sinclair is part of our outreach division. And when I was talking about violent crimes and persons crimes, I have Sergeant Eric Tobler over here that represents that faction of the Sheriff's Office. So everything we do, whether it's investigating that lawnmower getting stolen or having an event for our children, our Considered Consequences event, or our CHAMPS program in the schools, all of that is serving the community. All of those things, our neighborhood watch, when we have a neighborhood watch meeting, and we have a very robust neighborhood watch program. So all of those things are out in the community. But it's an attitude. When I was talking about earlier, that attitude creates outcome. It's the attitude that we have to foster in each and every one of our people that works for us, to know that you're community minded. I work for you all. The elected sheriff works for the people. The elected sheriff does not work for a mayor, does not work for anybody like that. So we have to know that we have to be community minded and know that you all are the bosses. And so we instill that. Sometimes, unfortunately, some of our folks may fall short of that goal. And we want to know about it, and we want to deal with it. But that is the values that we try to instill to do the community policing. And I think that as far as that goes, I can sit up here and tell you all night long, we community police, and we do this, and we do that for community policing. But if you don't see it and you don't feel it, I'm just selling you a scam. And so if you think you're defined how others see you, and if others in the community see us in that vein and see us in that light and think we are serving the community and that we are community policing, then that's the goal we want to achieve. But we don't want to, you hear somebody saying these things, and you ask them, how many times have we asked somebody, who are you trying to convince, me or you? So I can say say we're community policing, but if you don't see it and you don't believe it, it doesn't count. And so that's what we're here tonight for. And if you don't think we're rising to that level, please let us know. We want to strive for that goal.
Thank you very much. Is there any follow-up question? Okay, yes, sir.
Thank you. And I have noticed an apparent manpower shortage as regards to deputies. I can drive from East Macon all the way across to the mall, and most days I don't see a single deputy. And sometimes I might see one or two. Can you address what the shortage is in regards to manpower for the Bibb County Sheriff Department, sir?
Thank you.
Thank you for that question, sir. I appreciate it. And that is one of our That is one of our challenges. That is one of the things that we're working for every day. I can tell you that since the 1st of December, we've hired over 35 deputies to work at the sheriff's office. We've hired a number of part-timers, over 100 part-timers to work at the sheriff's office. I see we are beginning to turn the corner of getting people hired. In fact, we hired one today. I interviewed him this afternoon. So we are doing things to get people on staff. People are wanting to get back into law enforcement. People are wanting to get into this profession now, and we're seeing that in a big way. Yes, we're short. Yes, we do have times when we're not able to respond as fast as we would like to, but someone will come and someone will answer that call. And if it's a serious where somebody is being attacked or it's a risk of personal injury, if we have to send somebody from Lizella over here to Middlefield Road to answer that call quickly, we're going to do that. But yes, that is one of the challenges we're facing, but we are seeing some movement on that, and we are getting some people hired. And as we get them hired and get them trained, hopefully you'll see more sheriff's cars out there. So thank you.
Thank you so much. And of course, the sheriff said earlier that when I mentioned to him that I didn't think, he said we're covered, and if he itemized all the people that are with him today, the sheriff's office is certainly covered. And I see Lieutenant Thomas back there with some shades on. You probably missed him, but he's sitting back there too. So you're very well covered.
I apologize. I thought he had stepped out, but he is hiding the legendary Lieutenant Leroy Thomas.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. And of course, certainly, Mr. Brown, your question is a well-placed question, but it's a question that I believe that the community is going to have to respond to by encouraging young people to get into law enforcement and stop being so outlaw-minded. We have that problem. And of course, you can ask young people, they don't want to arrest their friends. They know their friends are doing some things that they don't want to be involved in. So the sheriff is doing a great job of reaching out, and I think they've even lowered the age now that a person can become a deputy. But the community has got to respond and supply well, schooled and well determined people who want to see law enforcement and want to have a decent law-abiding community. That's something that the community has got to help with. Okay, we're going to go ahead and move on to the next section of questioning, that's in education. We have Dr. Jones here, and of course, the questions are, first of all, what is the biggest crisis facing teachers in the classroom today? And then how do you feel about teaching Black history in the classroom?
The biggest crisis. Teaching is rough. I need everybody to understand that for a minute. I need everybody to really, keep it real. Teaching is rough. It's 8 hours a day. In loco parentis, they stand in the place of parents. They're wearing multiple hats. They're nurses. The teacher has to be a nurse, counselor, mental health, which is really real now, and a teacher. And we talk about, I said earlier, the education was the great equalizer, but it's really literacy, the ability to read and write, the ability. So you talk about, what's been occurring year after year, and the ability to really, really be able to read and write. In many instances, we think about K-2 readiness. How ready are our kids leaving kindergarten to second grade? But it goes back a little further than that. What I notice is when you start talking about things not being equal, I started thinking about the most important years that you have are those very young years, 3 to 5. Your brain synapses are moving, you're learning, you're getting everything. Then so what happens is the differences start happening because some kids are exposed to preschool, some kids are not. How is the most important thing that we need have a waiting list? pre-K. We have daycare set all up everywhere. Are we providing what we really, really need in the daycares? Literacy, teaching students the opportunity to read and write. You know, another thing is that we're robbing students are being robbed of their childhood years. Being robbed, being exposed to so many different things. So now what I want you to think about is now you have students that are already struggling, that necessarily did not get the pre-K experience that they need to start learning letters and numbers. Just basic letters and numbers coming in behind. But those same kids are also being exposed to so many different things that we know that's going on in our community. And not just Bibb County, because it's going on everywhere. It's all over the state. We have things going on everywhere. And so now they're bringing that into the classroom, and now we're expected to go back in and teach and move them to a certain level by a certain rate. So what you end up getting is what a recent report is teacher burnout. Teachers are being burned because they're still trying to keep up with the pace, still trying to keep up with the pace of things that we did years ago in a whole new environment. While everyone else is, kind of sitting back, everyone else is kind of sitting back expecting for the teacher to still move 28 students at the same rate and pace that they did years past. And things have changed, times have changed. So even and it's not just a Bibb County thing, even as we look at it, statewide, I attended a state conference today. There's some things and some things that we need to change as far as pathways. What are we doing? How are we moving our students? Back in the day when we were all in school, they had different pathways where students could graduate in those pathways because everybody was not just going to a college or to a university. And so now we have in our district the 4 E's. We're looking for students to be meaningfully employed, entrepreneurs, enlisted in the military, and enrolled in a college or university, employed with a reputable business, enlisted in the military, or their own entrepreneurship. So now we're trying to start students off early, but we got to get the literacy rate up. And it's like we all have to start working again. I'm going back to that mindset again. Like, as I ride around Macon in different places, I see 3 and 4 and 5-year-old kids just out on the streets. I mean, we talk about our the lack of presence, but then of some of our officers, but you have 6 and 7-year-olds in the middle of the day, out in the middle of the streets when they should be in the schools learning to read and to write. So I'm going back to the question again. What is the biggest holdup for teachers? It is trying to balance everything that a student is bringing in, 28 students, as well as bringing in the curriculum that students are expected to know. The superintendent has launched a new campaign, the Show Up campaign. He wants students showing up ready to truly learn. He wants parents showing up, not just with attendance-wise, but parents showing up involved in trying to be involved in their child's educational pathway. He wants the community, business partners showing up, coming in, role models coming in, showing our students that there is another outlet. And I forgot the last part of your question.
Black history.
How do I feel about teaching Black history?
Yeah, no, the question is, how do you feel about teaching Black history in the classroom? And I just want to kind of refine it. Is there any Black history being taught in Bibb County in any of the schools? A course like it used to be, you could take a Black history course. Is that still possible in Bibb County school systems today?
We don't currently have a set curriculum. We are multicultural, but we don't have a set curriculum where students are just going through.
What is the percentage of Black students in Bibb County?
The percentage of Black students, I don't have an exact number.
You don't have what?
I don't have an exact number. It's about 80-something percent. But
80-some percent
yes,
of Black.
But I don't have an exact
80+% and no Black history courses. Okay.
But,
Go ahead.
I just want to say that a lot of this stuff, still, I know all the details and stuff, but this stuff goes back to our choices as far as who we put in office to guide a lot of these directions. If we put somebody on the local school board who could care less about black kids, and isn't that half and half? Half white, half black? I mean, Sheriff, some of y'all don't care about, do they? He's a good buddy of mine. He's a good buddy of mine, so I can call his name. Some don't care, so they're not going to do and push programs that are going to help our children who make up the majority of children in the school system. If you have folks on the state level like Brian Kemp, who could care less about the education of black and brown folks, you're not going to get the results that you need, and they're going to continue running teachers out of the system. A number of you are teachers now, and I'm not sure, Reverend Ficklin, that we would fit in the school system these days because there's so many rules and regulations and restrictions and stuff. You can't say this. You can't talk about slavery was terrible. You got to teach that it was nice and we were happy and we were grinning and all of that. That's what Ron DeSantis and these other folks are wanting teachers to teach in the classroom. So the decisions we make as to who we elect nationally, who we elect on the state level, whether we get up off of our sorry behinds and go vote every time, or whether we stay home and say it's raining, it's hot, it's whatever, we got to make some decisions about our own future. Who we vote for makes a difference. It makes a difference in every realm of our lives. And our children are suffering. Our children are suffering because there are some folks that we have allowed to get in office who could care less. They just want to take it over and tell us what to do with it and how to live and what to say and when to grin and all of this. Y'all, I'm not going back. And I don't know about you, but who we elect makes a difference in education.
And thank you so much, Commissioner Lucas. And certainly, I think that what you said really is a very important point about who we elect. I asked Dr. Jones about the percentage and as well as whether there were black courses being taught. And of course, it's not a reflection on him, it's a reflection on who we elect. And of course, there should be somebody on the Board of Education on this panel. So we can ask them, why aren't there certain things going on in our school? And Elaine, Commissioner Lucas said that she didn't think that she and I would make it now. I said they tried to kick us out when we was in. So
Hey, Reverend Fickler, can I say something real quick and then we go to this question? Here's another thing that's important too, and I see you, I want to let him answer your question, Stanley. This is why, when Steve asked the question, like, why is there a waiting list? One reason why there's a waiting list is because of the census. Every 10 years, that what determines what your pre-K spots are. So while we're trying to avoid it, thinking that who living in our house and all that, that's how you determine your pre-K spots and the money that go toward pre-K. So I just wanted to throw that out there because sometimes we don't know. The census is about money and power. And we have to educate our community on that. So I just want to say that. So Steve may know, but that's why there's a waiting list. We don't fill out the census like we should.
In other words, folks scared to be counted. And you need to be counted because as Reverend Johnson said, it does impact what happens with the money coming into our community. I see Mr. Stanley.
Yes, sir. To answer you, I was trying to piggyback on what Dr. Jones was saying just now. the greatest equation in anything is a citizen. And I would encourage citizens to always go to these meetings. If you ask the question why there are not many Black history courses taught or any Black history courses taught, go to the school board meetings. Galvanize your community members and stand firm, as Ms. Lucas was saying just now. A lot of times, if something's happening at City Hall that I don't agree with, I'm in the face of those at City Hall. So there's no greater voice than you, the citizens. So get involved in those community matters.
Thank you. I think that's echoing what Commissioner Lucas has been saying all along, and she came in here as a first out of the box demonstrator to us as to what involvement is about by going down to the Transit Authority. We have one more question back here.
No, I have a comment.
Okay.
My name is Carol Spain. A lot of y'all know me, some of you don't. Let me tell you something about the census. I worked for the census in 2020. Because of COVID, your then president cut the census. They stopped, they did not let us finish the census. It was stopped early. They stopped it in October. We had already been off a couple of months because of COVID. We were supposed to go over into 2021. They would not let us. They shut it down because he said he did not want people counted. That's right. That's what happened. And that's what we got to stop and go out here and vote. These people that we vote for don't care nothing about us, including that mayor of Macon. He ain't here because he don't want to be here. And you can say anything you want to say, but he don't care nothing about black folk, and I'm going to sit down. But I'm going to tell y'all, sir, you didn't go vote for Stacy. You voted for that piece of thing that we already had. He had his knee on your neck. You still voted for it.
Well, you have your own opinion, but I beg to disagree with you. Yeah, I'm going to say what I want to say. You don't tell me what to say.
This is
you
the
don't tell me
church,
what to say.
so we're going to be respectful.
We're going to go on to Judge Humus now. And the question that I'm going to ask, they don't have a question down here for you, Judge Humus, but you indicated in your opening statements that you see a lot of people that come before you, and of course they come before you for various reasons. On the criminal side, we know that you are there to determine whether there's enough evidence to issue a warrant against a person or what have you. And that's, as you said, it's a very kind of difficult decision to do sometime. I know you look in some of the faces and there are people that you can identify with most of the time. And then, of course, the other side that you mentioned was about the housing situation and people having to get, they hadn't paid their rent and people want to kick them out and what have you. And I know that this is a very, very difficult situation for you all to face in the civil and magistrate court. And I just want you to just kind of respond to some of the things that you have to look at every day and give us some kind of reasoning as to the kinds of decisions that you have made in that court.
I was hogging the mic.
Well, when we talked about earlier about your faith and prayer, and you have to do that when you're making decisions about people's lives and how they're going to be affected. Because even though you have faith and prayer of things, I'm guided by what the law says that I must do, what the statute, what the case law say. Even though I may feel a certain way, can't make decisions based on how I feel. What I do see is that sometimes it's heartbreaking when in the criminal side, when I see young people come before, and I'm trying to get a feel for why are you doing this, and they seem to have no concern, no remorse, I've heard so many times. I said, it could have been you that got that shot and died, and their response is, I just been dead. So I'm like, you have no real value for your own life, and it was heartbreaking when I first came on in 2020. It's even more so now because they're getting younger. There were older people then. Death is death and murder is wrong. But when I see 17-year-old, when I see teenagers now that are coming in for taking the life of another person and having to make that decision. Now, when it comes to decision about whether I issue a warrant, it's based on what information that the officers have at that time. Be mindful of the fact now they don't know the full investigation. They're there at that moment getting information at that moment. And from that moment, they'll let us know that someone has committed a crime. And I do wish, whether it means increasing their salaries or whatever the case may be, because their lives are in jeopardy. If there's a shortage, that means one person may be working over here on East Macon, or two. Their lives are in jeopardy. So we do need people to encourage to apply for the jobs. We do need to encourage our commissioners to give them more money so they will be interested in applying for the job. But on the civil side, it's we deal with, I handle car accidents and all those things too. But I do also deal with the issue of housing, and we dealt with that issue during COVID, where we had the Georgia Rental Assistance Program. Dr. Ficklin and I was on a committee together where we were trying to get the word out that there's funds out there for you to get it. And you can use it where you get your past due rent paid plus an extra 3 months so that it will help you to catch up. And, trying to get people to apply. And what has been heartbreaking, Dr. Ficklin, a lot of people may have been behind for a whole year and received $15,000 because they've been a whole year. That means the landlord still had to pay the mortgage from some kind of way. He had to pay the mortgage. He wasn't getting the rent. But when the person gets the money and they don't give it to the landlord, and so I try to tell them, you're dealing with federal funds, okay? So they come knocking at your door. But in a sense, it does require thinking of someone else's life. We are going to have to find a way to, as it has been said repeatedly, to get into the minds of our young people that their life matter and the other person's life matters too. So that we don't feel that we need to shelter ourselves and run. No, I don't want to be out no more. I used to shop at Walmart at 12 o'clock because there were less people in the store. Well, they stopped opening Walmart at 12 o'clock now, and I stopped shopping at 12 o'clock. But that's not the society we need to live in, or what we need. I can't, as a judge, can only say what I think we can do. I can't do like I used to when I was city council, advocating as I used to back in the day. But I can advocate to the sense that it is a serious matter that we're having to face, and not for you to get scared, but for you to want to desire to help and want to be involved. Not to want to run away, not to go out, although we have the law saying you can pack, everybody can pack a gun now. Not that serve as your outlet, but our outlet need to be, how can we get together and help each other and get these kids to feel, or these young folks, because the older people are now convincing the younger people that you commit the crime. And it's an old trick, telling them that you do it, you're a juvenile, you won't get much time. That's not true anymore. If you act like an adult crime, commit an adult crime, you will get adult punishment, and you'll be prosecuted as an adult more than likely. So that doesn't happen anymore. We need to do that. I do know that also of finding ways to get our some more affordable housing in our community for our people. I mean, I've seen rent go from $600 to $1,200, or sometimes $2,000 a month. I'm like, that's a house note, more than a house note. But things have gone up, so we get more affordable housing as well as helping people to manage that which they do have. So being on this side, and I said this side because I practiced law for 30 years. I was on the other side, defending people. But being on this side where I have to make decisions, and I get this whole story on both sides, not just the side that I'm representing, I realize that people are going through a lot of things. And last, I want to bring this to your attention. We have a serious mental health problem. Okay? And all the time, we see people who are locked up, but the jail has become our mental health hospital. You know, people are getting locked up when they don't really, I mean, so much is going on in their mind. And because our officers are designed there to protect and while they're there, the jail is really not equipped to serve as a mental health facility. And so we need to also find ways that we can provide services some kind of way through River Edge or whatever to address homelessness and the mental health issue.
Thank you so much. And since the mayor has been attacked today, I do want to say, coming back on what you said about mental health, this mayor is the first mayor that has started Mental Health Matters. And that's basically our people who are walking the streets, and this mayor has put in place and continues to appropriate money to address the mental health kinds of situations that we find in our community. I could go on and on with the things that he has done that nobody else has done, and the reason that he is not here is because he had a previous engagement. And I really, really count it as some people come to attack rather than to receive information. We're going to go to our district attorney at this time, and of course, we know that one of the things, and there's not a question on here for our district attorney either, but I do want her to share with you, because one of the things that I thought was very, very proactive when she became the district attorney, she looked at all these cases of people who were in jail, and some of them probably, did not belong there. And she moved forward to render justice where justice should have been rendered. And I thought that was a great thing that she did. And then, of course, she's also prosecuting some people who really need to be prosecuted and get them where they belong. So I'm not going to say anymore. I'm going to let you go ahead and take your turn to address this community about things that you see.
So 2 things I would like to talk about. The first is, as we were talking about, what my duty is as district attorney, and I am obligated to protect the rights of victims as well as the rights of the accused, and that is different than any other lawyer. And sometimes I understand there definitely is a concern of mine and everyone in the community, always as it relates to public safety, but we cannot violate rights in the process. And so sometimes when things are reported, people don't necessarily understand what's going on behind the scenes and why somebody might have been given a bond by a judge. And sometimes our office, in violent crime cases, more often than not, over 90% of the time, we are opposing that bond, but bond is up to a judge. There are times where what we initially thought, and I say we being our office and law enforcement, what we initially thought, we have to follow the facts. And for our second year, the our vision was courage to change the culture. And that also means sometimes changing the direction, because we have to go with facts. It's not what I think, it's not what I know, it's what I can prove in a court of law. And even recently, we had a case where someone who was charged with murder, they actually indicated that they were there, they were charged as a party to the crime, but when the DNA, which we know takes a while because that has to go to the GBI crime lab, when that DNA came back, the scientific evidence was contrary to those individuals being charged. And you may hear, oh, somebody released on murder, but I assure you, there is a backstory of why that individual, may be out. Same thing occurred with a case involving a baby from 2002. It took us over 3 days short of a year to get the autopsy report. The process should not be the punishment. And so we are definitely prosecuting cases, but at the same time, we want to make sure the folks that we are prosecuting are the right individuals. And I know that's what this community wants. And I believe that sometimes people sensationalize the homicides, and they begin to count numbers and talk about numbers. And, you know, as I said many times, one is one too many. And these are folks' lives on both sides that are being affected. And we don't want to be so afraid that we're hasty and we have innocent folks convicted. So, you know, I have an equal responsibility to absolutely protect the community and but just prosecutions. And we you know, we can't instill fear in us where we go back to where people were being prosecuted without evidence. That's definitely not the system that we want. And the second thing I would like to talk about, I know Dr. Jones talked about as far as what our children are exposed to. We have our RISE initiative, Restoring Inspiration, My Success in Education, where we identify trauma in our youth as a result of crime, and we treat that trauma so that it can be mitigated in their lives and they won't become a part of our criminal justice system. Just last week, we had in court a 5-year-old, he was 4 at the time, that was punched by his father in the chest for telling the truth. And then when, you know, as Dr. Jones said, the challenges that the school face, because you have 28 children who all have different stories, and stories of trauma and stories of waking up hearing gunfire. None of the things that I experienced as a child. And so we have to do a better job as elected officials, as community leaders, to treat that trauma as well so that they don't become a part of our criminal justice system. And so that's what our RISE initiative, that's what that does. But I say that to say that I know that's what this community voted for, and you do have a district attorney that definitely prosecutes. We also protect constitutional rights, making sure we have the right person charged, and we do that with evidence, and we also focus on prevention.
All right, thank you so much, and we're going to go to Mr. Herbert Denard now, and we're going to just let him continue with what he has been doing in our community about the situation that we face in our community with our young people. He has launched a very, I think, important initiative to try to change the mindset of our young people in this community. And Mr. Denard, would you just share with this audience some of the things that you're doing? We're going to get to you, Mr. Leon Jones. We'll get to you, the coroner, in just a minute.
We have some serious problems in Macon. The sheriff has allowed a group of us to go and visit and talk to some of the prisoners, some of the inmates that's in jail. The things that you hear is unbelievable. Somebody stole a car, and I'm asking the guy, why did he steal the car? He just was in the car lot. The man left the keys on the desk, went to the bathroom. He got the keys and took off for a joyride. Where did you go? Went and picked my girlfriend up. I don't know where that thinking comes from. I don't know how we turn it around. Another guy we talked to while he was incarcerated, he asked him, what do you want to do when you get out of jail? What do you really want to do? When you get out of jail, they let you out tomorrow, what you want to do? What kind of job do you want to seek? His desire was to get a job at Burger King. I'm thinking, that was it. This guy's 27 years old, and his desire to have a job at Burger King, somewhere we are missing something. And we go down the line and talking to different people, and some of them say, and they look serious, they like to play in the NBA. We got some serious problems that we need to deal with, and W.E.B. Du Bois, most of you know of him because this is Mount Moriah. But W.E.B. Du Bois said, he had something called a 10%. The people that have made it, and we have a lot of people in this community that's made it. We have 5 billionaires, not 1 billion, more than that have made it, black people. And then you have a lot of you that have made it. We have to reach back and get somebody. We gotta do that. You gotta reach back, because a lot of people have no visions of anything. Somebody helped me when I was in the military, told me to read Richard Wright, told me to read Ralph Ellison. I had never heard of them. Invisible Man, Black Boy. We need to reach back and encourage somebody. Help somebody, encourage somebody, help give them vision. It might be your relatives, it might be your neighbors, it might be somebody in your church. We must help somebody.
Thank you, Mr. Denard, and certainly we have, last but not least, our coroner, who was the first person identified on the concern of the panelists. The coroner was the first person, and as I stated, I know that he was really busy. The last time I was with him, I had a group of young people with me, and he was making a presentation, and all during the presentation his phone was going off, and I let them know that, you know, he got to get out of here real soon, because if not, his phone gonna ring off the hook because he gets that kind of call all the time. And of course, he is the most, I guess, popular elected official in Bill County. He garners more votes than anybody else, and of course, he works harder, I think, that most elected officials do. The question, not you, Ms. Lucas. I say it most, not all. The questions that are raised for you, Mr. Coroner, and I'll just let you just have at them. What are the rates of homicide and suicide in the black community according to age groups? I don't know whether you brought those statistics with you or not. What is the #1 cause of death in the black community? What are your responsibilities as coroner? What type of death require the coroner's office to get involved? And what is an autopsy? Who decides if an autopsy is required? And what's the procedure for obtaining a coroner's report, autopsy report, and toxicology report? All of those are questions that they have for you. I know that you are ready to answer any one of them, and if there's someone who wants to focus in on a certain one, I will recognize you. Mr. Leon Jones.
That was pretty good, considering I just pulled 2 dead people out of a house in Bird City, been dead since October of last year. So my job, good afternoon, everyone. My job is, I'm Leon Jones, Chief Coroner of Macon-Bibb County. And what we do is death pronunciation. We pronounce people dead. We also work with the Sheriff's Department, Police Department, and the law enforcement agency. Now, let me be clear. If y'all don't remember anything else I said tonight, the mayor cares about the violence in this community. Certainly, Ms. Spain has a right to her opinion. We live in the greatest country in the world. She's protected by the First Amendment. She has a right to her opinion. But I know firsthand that Mayor Lester Miller cares about the violence in this community, that he also cares about the youth in this community. But you gotta look at the homicides from last year now. A lot of these homicides last year was full-grown men. But having said that, I'm the one that communicate with the mayor at night on these homicides. But she has a right to her opinion, okay? Autopsies are performed at the request of the Sheriff's Department, or if we feel that something is suspicious. We have certain protocols. Anybody that died less than 24 hours admission of a hospital, it's a coroner's case. Meaning you go, everybody that dies in the emergency room, you're supposed to call the coroner. If you die from an injury, suicide, homicide, anything suspicious, you got to call the coroner. Now, where they slip through the cracks is you have a wreck on Monday and die 2 weeks later. Well, the nurse says they've been in the hospital 2 weeks. You ain't got to call the coroner. Wrong. The doctor should not ever sign a death certificate if it is an injury to the descendant. Never. The coroner is supposed to sign the death certificate. It's not where you die at, it's where the call originate. Case in point, if a wreck happened in Houston County and died in Bibb County, it's Houston County coroner's jurisdiction. If a wreck happened in Bibb County and died in Houston County, it's Bibb County jurisdiction. We work very closely with the Sheriff's Department and all law enforcement agencies. I've been in the coroner's office since 1990. I was elected 4, 8, 12, 16, and 20, so I must be doing something right. If don't, Bozo the Clown could run against me and beat me. We have transparency in our office. Nothing is hush-hush. Nothing is kept close to the vest. However, all information will not be released unless it's authorized by the Sheriff's Department. There's no ego trips in our office, okay? If a person asks me for something and Tobler's in charge, I ask Tobler, what can I release, what he don't want me to release, what he want me to say to the media, because the media will bait you, okay? But let me say this right here. When I ran for coroner in 2004, Lily Evans hired a lady named Sonia Barnes that worked at WMAZ to teach me how to talk on the camera. The senator gave me some points, Senator David Lucas. And the first thing he said, think before you speak, because you can't unring the bell. Okay? The media will bait you. That's the sheriff asking. He's been baited. Okay? But we know what to do, we know what not to do. I like to open the floor. Any question y'all can ask me about anything, I'm willing to answer. Yes, sir.
I'm the moderator, Mr. Leon Jones.
Oh, I'm sorry. I had a senior moment. Being in that house, I apologize.
Thank you, thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, no, he's not going to take this one now.
Well, it's not a. It's directed to you, Mr. Moderator, and to you.
Okay, Mr. Stewart, go ahead.
Yes, sir. Ms. Spann, of course, as you say, had a right to her opinion.
That's right.
And I'm not saying that because I've known the mayor for years, so I'm not going in that direction. But CARE is not a plan, okay?
Say again.
CARE is not a plan. The question I think that she didn't have the foresight to ask is what plan is in place? And Mr. Moderator, you mentioned the dollars that the mayor has spent. Most of those dollars are American Rescue dollars that came directly from the president, which had to be allocated to be spent in communities. So my question to both of you is what plan, and since you're here to represent the administration, what plan was in place for the administration if you didn't have those American Rescue dollars in place? Thank you.
I'll go ahead and answer that because, you know, what Carol did was, let me answer, okay? What Carol did was throw a bonfire. And a lot of times, people are still upset because their candidate didn't win. And she said he was a racist, which is the biggest lie that has ever been told. I've known him since he was 13 years old. And if people are upset because he won, they're just upset. But I know him, he was a poor kid and who lived in situations unlike other kids at Southwest High School. I was his teacher. That's why I'm with him now. I knew who he was. I knew the kind of concern he had. And thank you, Coroner Jones, for saying what you said, because you're constantly in conversation with him. We know that the money is American Rescue Fund money, and other cities have not spent it like he has spent it. He spent this money to answer questions and concerns that our community, the black community, has had for years and years, and no one has addressed them. You can ask Commissioner Lucas right here. He's taken that money to do some things with that she has been crying and asking for years and years, and she can take a break now because he has put that money in place. Yes, it's American Rescue money because we had COVID, and Biden put the money in place. Other communities are not spending the money like it's being spent in Macon, Georgia. We have a bad problem with drainage. Some communities, I've been to a conference where they spending all their rescue money into answering the drainage problem. He is spending money in trying to improve the lives of basically black people. This is the first mayor who has come along, and 2 men froze to death. I don't know what happened to these two that Colonel Jones was talking about in a vacant house. And the first thing he did was to take some of that money that you're talking about and open up a warming center. People all across the country have given him an award for that kind of thinking. He has a lot of things in plan. I can't speak for all his plans, but I know some of them. And I know that people who get up and say things and make charges against him that are not right and are wrong, as somebody said earlier, she has a right to her opinion. I say she has a right to her opinion if it's based on fact. Otherwise, she don't have a right to her opinion to get up and just say anything without any factual information. So now, I'm not going to get into debate with you, Mr. Stewart, because I know that you ran for mayor yourself, and we don't want to get into that. But I hope I have answered some of your question. I never will answer all of it, and I know that. That's what we asking the question. I'm asking the question. He
I
brought
had a
up
question. I had a question.
Go ahead.
Could I ask? Okay. My name is Sabrina Matthews, and kind of getting back to a point that was made about solutions and actions, I want to ask everyone on the panel, are there areas in your field that you want more civic involvement, more citizens to show up to volunteer, more citizens to show up to get engaged or informed? And also related to the students, you all are Black presence or the community presence. What are some things you're doing for your talent pipeline to create people like you 10 years from now? So
Okay, let me respond on that, please.
Yeah.
Go ahead, and then I'm going to ask Ms. Lucas to respond to it, because I think that's down her alley.
When I first got elected, my goal was, and still is to get into the schools, okay? And we are, my staff and I, we are constantly in the schools doing career day. And as a matter of fact, I'm a hot commodity doing career day. I've even spoke to schools where teachers has left the BIP system and went out of county to another school. And as a matter of fact, I'm at Ballard Miller tomorrow for career day. We try to stay connected to the schools. We start when the kids like this. You can't wait till a child get like that. And I'm very open, I'm very honest, I'm very transparent. I was the only child raised in the hood with no father too. So I can give a testimony. You can't give a testimony unless you have a test. Okay, my question still remains, and I don't want to get off track. I agree, I don't want to get off the track. I don't play the race card, the blame game, or point the finger. I ask the people to stick together and try to keep these kids on the right track. And that's one of the reasons when Mr. Nard called me for tomorrow, I said I couldn't go to jail tomorrow. I can go next Wednesday. Anything I can do to keep somebody out of funeral home, a body bag, or 668 Oglethorpe Street, I'm willing to do it. My wife says I'm not stable.
So my question was more on like, what can we do as citizens?
As together as we can get.
For the whole panel.
For the whole county, togetherness, okay? Not the whining and the complaining and the finger pointing. Grab a child, go to a church, go to a school, talk to the principal, because they have a lot of allegations going on, okay? If you see a child going down the wrong path, don't just stand there, try to do something. Now, let me be clear.
And that was for the whole panel.
Right. Everybody got a gun these days, okay? Everybody got a gun. What's the age limit on a rifle? You can buy a rifle at a certain age, but can't buy a gun. Is that right, Sheriff? Okay, so everybody got a gun. But what I'm saying is, as black people, if you look at the homicide rate, now let me say this right here. All homicides are not murders. All homicides are not murders. The definition of a homicide is one life taken by another life. Having said that, it could be justifiable, could be accidental, could be voluntary, could be involuntary. So all homicide is not murder. But like Madam DA, 1 is 2 minutes for me. But if you look at the stats, now I get attacked a lot on Facebook, okay? I'm not used to being attacked when I haven't done anything wrong, okay? My partner, Bobby Ficklin, he can handle it. If you look at the murders in this city, I went back 3 years where it was 280 homicides in 4 years. 97% were black. 97% were black. And like I told the sheriff, and I told the mayor, and I told the DA, this is by anger and conflict. I'm mad with you, so I'm gonna shoot you. Nobody fights anymore. They pull a Glock. Now, from a child or teenager standpoint, if your son got an AK-47 in your house, you should know it. I'm not talking about a Glock or a 22. You can put them in a book bag, but you can't put an AK-47 in a book bag. You should know that. It's us. That's all we do is kill each other. And you got signed, Black Lives Matter, Black Lives Matter, Black Lives Matter. And I say it in a minute. And my wife say, you said that? What they gonna do, put me in timeout? I'm 69 years old. I wish Black Lives Matter to black people. If it did, we wouldn't be killing each other. We had 4 homicides in 1 week. Out of 4 homicides, 3 of them are black. 3. This is about anger and conflict. That's all we do, kill each other. Then people get mad. All you do is talk about black on black crime, black on white people kill each other. Look at the stats. I ain't got to lie. Here they are right here.
Thank you so much, Mr. Jones. And certainly we are getting down to the end, and I want to apologize to Pastor Kilber if I got out of whack, but I'm not the one for folk to jump on and not get something hit back. Okay, we're going to go ahead and give a final.
Go ahead, DA.
We're going to go ahead and give a final minute to each one of our panelists after the DA speaks. We're going to start with Commissioner Lucas and go down and let each panelist have a minute to close out. We've been here almost 2 hours, and I think after we give everybody a minute, that will round us out. So DA Howard, go ahead, and then we're coming to Commissioner Lucas for her final minute.
Okay, so we were asked, what could you do as a community? So there are 3 things that I would ask of you in the way of partnership, specifically with our office in the court system. First, if you are called to jury duty, please show up and follow those instructions. Within the last 30 days, we've had 2 mistrials due to juror misconduct. One was Googling something about the case during lunch. So if you show up, the instructions may seem, kind of tedious. Please follow those instructions. The other thing, if you know someone who is a witness in a case, please encourage them to come forward. Again, it's not what I think, it's not what I know, it's what I can prove. We have a huge challenge in this community, and we're not unique, but in communities where you see a lot of individuals who have been systemically marginalized, where they don't trust the criminal justice system. They don't want to come forward. So please encourage those folks who are witnesses to come forward. We are prosecuting those cases, and they are receiving significant amounts of time. And the other thing that I'm asking as far as prevention is, you know of a child who has experienced adverse childhood experiences, please contact our office and refer them. What is that? If you know of a home where there may be some domestic violence going on, or if you know of a home where someone has, a parent has died, or a parent has been murdered, or a parent has committed a murder. All of those things are adverse experiences as far as the development and growth and successfulness of a child, so they won't become involved in the criminal justice system. I wish I can go and knock on every door, but I can't. And so that is where I need the community, because you know what's going on in your community before we know. You are influencers, and so I ask you to become an ambassador for RISE and for the success of our youth, and refer them to our office. We have recently added a pediatric psychiatrist to our team. That is major. That is something that a lot of folks in our community, talking about that poverty rate that Commissioner Lucas was talking about, they cannot afford. And these services are free. So I asked her what is the youngest age she could see. She said 3 years old. So don't think somebody may be too young. It's never too early to begin to change the trajectory of a child's life in a positive manner. So please help us with that. So that's my call to action.
Well, we had 3 suicides this year. 3 suicides this year.
Yeah, that-
All 3 are black.
That was one of your questions. Thank you so much.
Yeah,
and
thank
we're
you,
going to
Brett.
go back and do our 1-minute closing, start with Commissioner Lucas, and we'll go down the line for everybody to do a 1-minute closing.
Okay, it's been wonderful. The discussion has been great. It's always good to be in a situation where people can communicate with each other, get information, and then be willing to use it. So thank you and this church for doing this. We really appreciate it. One of the things that I'd like to see all of you do is to commit yourselves to being involved. Find out what's going on. Don't just think you know what's happening. Ask somebody. Ask the person who has the information. Get the real information and then act on it. The other thing is vote every election. Do not let an election or anything else pass you by without you being a part of it. Otherwise, you don't need to say a word ever. If you have not been involved, don't ever say anything. Please don't say anything to me, because I'm going to tell you, you just don't need to say anything. Y'all be involved. Is my time?
Yes.
Time. The last thing is, I am term limited. You know, with consolidation, they cut out the districts and everything, and they couldn't get me that way, you know, by running people. So they said, well, we're going to put in term limits. So I'm term limited, and 3 other folks on the commission. We need to have somebody who's willing to step up and run for this seat. And I don't mean just anybody, because you'll be my representative. And so if you have that desire to be involved, you're not scared, you want to read your material and represent people in the same assertive way as I've tried to, an honest way, then you step forward, please, and run for, if not this seat, some seat, and be involved in making change. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Pastor Johnson?
Is it Miss Mathis or Matthews? Matthews. I talk fast anyway, so I'm going to try to say this clearly if I can, okay? So number 1, call to action. The word tells the Israelites when they're coming out, he said, remember where you come from, remember what your so let's remember to tell the story, and let's also remember that we are survivors. We got 400 plus years, and our DNA is still carrying on. That's number 1. Number 2, I want y'all to look up 2 organizations, cvg.org, that's cureviolence.org, and I want you to see that's what I'm the director of, the program director. And with that, we take a public health approach to curing violence. So we detect it. Once we detect it, we interrupt it, and then we change the norm. Here's the norm that we change. We're going to keep little Shawty from shooting back. Right, so that's why I'm doing it real fast because I want to be mindful of the time. That's a minute?
That's a minute and 20 seconds.
Minute 20 seconds. Let me say, can I say one thing? I want to be rude. What you asked about talent, I apologize. You asked about talent. For talent, what we do at the Urban CEO, I started a leadership program under that. Everybody from a GED or PhD went through it. The Urban Leadership Academy. And we take you through a 7-month course that deals with grassroots and change agents. Everybody from Dr. Anissa Jones to my boy Sherman Kine, who's a former, he don't like to say that, but a former street guy, has gone through it, and now they're sitting on boards and doing other stuff. Please forgive me for going over the time. And you can find that at theurbanceo.org and click on Academy. And it's a price to it, but it's worth it.
Thank you. Sheriff Davis.
All right. Thank you all for coming. Thank you all for being here tonight. But we've talked about everything in theory. We've talked about the lack of hope. We've talked about the lack of education. We've talked about that. Well, I'm going to get down to practice and something that every person in this room can do tomorrow. When you get home, go online, go to the Bibb School System website, find the closest school to your house. Thank you, brother. Find the closest school to your house, and you may have kids there already. You may be a parent or a grandparent, but find the closest school to your house and go there and knock on that door and say, I'd like to read to the kids. Because we know that literacy, it's been brought up here now, the literacy is a problem. They want to see people who may or may not look. We talked about, 80% of the kids in the school system are African American or whatever. But they want to see folks that are successful. They see their teachers every day. They see their parents. They want to see other folks that can show them the light. And when you get there, the second thing you can do, and I'm going to be a shameless plug of Sheriff's Office, find Judy Gordon and come to the Sheriff's Office website, bibbsheriff.org, or our Facebook page, and get involved through our Neighborhood Watch and our outreach efforts. But that school piece, if you had to choose between going to a school and coming to do Neighborhood Watch, go to the school. Because at that school, you're going to open the door to find out what these kids really are suffering. There's a concept called ACE. Has any of y'all heard of ACE, Adverse Childhood Experiences? And there are so many kids in our school system that are having adverse childhood experiences, and you may be the person to solve their problem. You may be the person that can take them out of those adverse childhood experiences and show them a better way. So find that school that you're closest to and go there and read to the kids. Come, involve yourself with the Neighborhood Watch. D.A. Howard has some outstanding programs, and I'm sure she'll talk about that, her Rise Pro initiative and some others. But do that. I'm talking ground level. We've talked up here about theory. I'm giving you an assignment that every one of us can do.
Thank you so much.
Thank you all. God bless you.
Dr. Jones.
All right, and it's just Mr. Jones. I hadn't earned that doctorate yet. But biggest thing is, he kind of took it.
We're encouraging you.
I appreciate that. Let's not make it so big that we don't do simple things. We're making it real big. We're thinking about the 20,000 kids that's in our district. You one person. Let's get out and go work on one child. Like, everybody in here has an audience. The people that's listening, you have an audience. Every single person has somebody they can go reach, and we all go reach different people. Let's not make it so big. Go in and find a child. We got a lot of kids that are on the right track, that's doing the right thing. But we do have some that are struggling. Let's get in, let's go to the schools, find out how they need those volunteers, but not just going just to work on them, to read with them, but then go back in and pull another adult. Like, each person that's sitting in here can go talk to another adult about going back to the schools. What's really happening is we have a problem with literacy, and then we have a problem now with reactions. Our students are reacting too quickly. And poor literacy with poor reactions equal bad choices. Kids are making bad decisions extremely quickly. And so now we need more talk with our students about what it looks like to make the right decision, what it looks like to have emotions. When you're going out doing things like that, kids don't have emotion anymore, which is why they are talking disrespectful, which is why they walk past you disrespectful. We got to get back out and go get one-on-one with kids and go talk and explain. Don't expect kids to just know what emotions should look like. We got to go back and really teach it. We're expecting kids to grow up and do what we did, but now we got to go back in and start training. We train up a child in the way they should go so that when they're old, they won't depart from it. some kids are not being trained, so it's our job to get out and go train. But let's not make it so big that we forget the simple things. Let's become experts in the small things, one child and one other adult at a time.
Thank you. Judge Humans.
You know, it is said that too much is given, much is required. And God has required us to serve one another. And we need to take that literally in serving one another. We may get to a certain level in our life and think we're comfortable, and therefore it doesn't affect me. I could very well say, I don't have any children. That's not my issue. I'm living comfortably. Somebody homeless, that's not my issue. It is all our issue, for we have been given that task. As we should get children in school, we should get the children and parents in church. To get that foundation, we talked about faith and prayer, but they can't get it out there in the street unless we go out of the church and give it to them or get them into the church. We have to, and I'm going to say this, I know you work for 30, 40 years and you may be tired educators, but we need our educators to reach back and maybe to go and help sometimes, to help the new teachers that are coming in, because it's a new breed and it's a new set of teaching. They got a whole lot of new obligations, trying to keep up with some statistic of testing and trying to keep up with all these other issues. So let's, the thing is that we need to just serve one another. We need to walk the talk and stop having forums and just talking. We need to do, as Nike said, just do it.
Thank you. D.A. Howard. Thank you.
I'm gonna go 1 minute. All right. So I just want to say to Mount Moriah and everybody in attendance, thank you so much for inviting us to be a part of this panel. I did my call to action. The number one thing is for you all to serve as ambassadors for the RISE initiative. Please contact our office, advocate in the community for our youth. And if you have any questions, I am the People's DA. It is your office. If you have any questions, we will definitely answer them as allowable by law. There's certain things about specifics of pending cases we can't talk about, all of the details, but we will give you as much information as allowed by law. So please contact us. Thank you all so much.
Thank you. Now that's law body. She was under a minute. Go ahead. Connor Jones.
He gave me his 1 minute.
Okay. Go ahead.
Thank you very much. I'm with an organization called Changing Mindsets. We have two specific things we're trying to do. We're trying to teach the Just Walk Away initiative. Too many parents for too long have taught their kids that somebody hit you, hit them back, to do this, do this. That used to work when there was very few guns involved. Now with the guns involved, we need to try to find a way to encourage them to walk away from it. It takes a bigger man to walk away from a fight than engage himself in a fight. We talked about the number of people that Leon Jones, the coroner, gave out, all the people that's dying. All of that is very important. But we have more people dying, that's the other thing I'm talking about, by eating the wrong foods. We killing folks. We killing ourselves. It's fried food, churches, the salt, the sugar. More people are in dialysis. Almost all of them are black. Over 50% right here in Macon. If we keep eating the wrong food, we going away from here. I am 77. I am 77. I have stopped eating certain foods. I encourage everybody to eat fruits and vegetables as much as they can. That will keep you around longer. If you doubt me, you think I'm lying, Google it. More of us is dying from that than shooting each other. Then when they die, we go to the funeral, and then the churches give them some more fried chicken. So please, and give them some more chocolate cake and some more sweet tea.
Time.
Now you calling time on me? I got 5 more minutes.
You had 2 minutes. It is 8:30. Let's give our panelists a big round of applause. They did an excellent job. And to Dr. Stanley Kimmel and Miss Jordan, Sister Jordan, who asked me to come. I hope that I didn't get out of line too much. And of course, back in the day when I had returned from Ghana, I would say Akwaba to you. But since I just got back from South Africa, I want to say Baya Donkey.
Again, on this evening, we thank the community for coming together.
Yes.
And to our Black History team, thank you for implementing this segment of our celebration of our culture and of our history. Dr. Ficklin, thank you for being our moderator on tonight. And to all of you who are on the panel, thank you for being here tonight, and thank you for serving our community in so many ways. As we sit on this, the last day of Black History Month, and as we are on the eve of Women's History Month, there's a quote by Coretta Scott King that I would like to leave with us tonight prior to parting prayer. The greatness of a community is most accurately measured by the compassionate actions of its members. Let's go to work.
All right.
Pray. Gracious God, thank you for community on this night. We thank you, oh God, for allowing us to peek through the window and see our challenges, to see our needs. But above all, dear God, give us compassion to move forward and not allow this to just be a moment in Black history, but allow this to be a call to action for all of us to make this community and the universal global world a better place in which to live. Bless us, dear God. We need thee. Now may the grace and the sweet communion of the Holy Spirit rest, rule, and abide henceforth and forevermore. And the people of God said, amen. May we go in peace.